Hello everyone, welcome to VOD of Consciousness with Sientir. I am Sientir, and you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Sientir. And we are interrupting meteor showers because they are terrible. Also, we're back in the Nolani Academy mission. Some of you may recognize it from such illustrious examples as Rurik dying. I felt like I wanted to end it on that sort of, I'm not sure you'd call it a high note, but shall we say emphatic note. So I decided to end it a little prematurely without the usual sign-off and all of that. It just felt more poignant to me. So I decided to do at least part of this mission without recording it for y'all. It's because it was a repeat of stuff we'd already done. I'm kind of coming through here a slightly different path, though, so I thought I'd go ahead and start recording things again. And yeah, unfortunately, what you saw there is the reason why players hate Prince Rurik. Through no fault of the player's own, the mission fails. Because what happens? Prince Rurik dies. Why does he die? Some random thing happens. Did he open the gate? I don't know. But the gate opened for unknown reasons because we hit a certain trigger and Prince Rurik got surrounded by enemies and we could not get in there in time to save him. That is the short story of what just happened. And unfortunately, it is a common story with Prince Rurik, and it is why players generally do not like him. So I thought it would be really good to kind of end on that sort of note. I'm not terribly upset about it or anything. I am a little upset about how much damage these guys are doing, though. That's not good. All of our minions apparently died while I was doing the introduction, I guess. We'll go down that way in a moment, actually. I want to go kind of around this way and get the rangers that are over down this path. No, you can get close enough over here. And that will trigger those guys to run around to fight us, which I'd rather have happen. They go around kind of back this way. We do have ourselves a nice sizable contingent of archers at this point as well. But yeah, so hopefully things go a little bit smoother this time. It hasn't taken terribly long to get back here, incidentally. It just turns out when you kind of are just going straight, it's not terribly difficult or anything to get back to this rough point. But hopefully Prince Rurik will do less dying this time. Oh goodness, no. The problem of what happens is when they're in the meteor shower like that, it's a long enough space that they think that they should heal because they're not getting hit by constant pips, and their healing gets interrupted by getting knocked down again by another meteor, which is part of what makes that spell so dangerous. The AI doesn't know how to handle it very well. This guy spams flare, which, as everyone knows, is not as efficient as attacking for a warrior. There was a big thing on the forums at one point about how flare is an absolutely terrible skill and why does it exist, kind of, is basically the point of it, but this was years and years and years ago, debating about game balance. And one of the things that's really difficult is the question of whether or not, because like flare is undoubtedly a terrible, terrible skill. The damage to energy is just not worth it. So the fundamental question you have to ask yourself is that okay? Are you okay with having a skill that is fundamentally bad? And I think the answer is yes. And the reason why I say that is because you need skills like that that can be a good spot for early players to have, something that they can lean on. But the caveat that I would add to that is you need to have it be clear that players shouldn't stay on that skill. And I don't think you want trap skills. I think you want stuff that can be quickly discerned as bad and doesn't just look good, but is secretly bad. Which is where I have problems with certain skills. Basically, if something looks strong, it should actually be strong. I've talked about this before with like the conundrum of heal other. Like if you look at heal other, at 161 health is really strong. Compare that to Orison of Healing at 63. That's almost 100 more health. It's like 98 more health. That's super duper strong. But the problem, the fundamental problem with that skill is that while it is super duper strong, they love their meteor shower. It is also 10 energy, which is a lot of energy. And what that means is it means that it's actually a really bad skill. Because what happens is if you were to use that skill, you would quickly find that you don't have any energy anymore. And a monk without energy is useless. By the way, this is an effigy. This is a titan. You might recognize them from when I did the Hell's Precipice mission. The Char are currently worshipping titans. And so they have made a titan as an effigy. I like the fact that this foreshadows the very end game by giving you something that represents a final late game enemy without obviously doing so. We've got a meteor shower. Where is it hitting? It is hitting right on our back line. So I'm ordering these guys out of there because it's going to absolutely wreck them, and we don't want that. We do have that lovely core of archers. So we want those guys to continue doing things. Flare does hurt a bit when you have as much fire magic as those guys are going to have, by the way. It's not like it's a completely worthless skill. It's just not as strong as you would like. Hey, that's a char hide. That means that I should have enough to be able to trade it for a piece of fur. So we do have a few lost soldiers that died, but we've got a few more that are alive. So I wanted to take care of that group first, because that group seems to be the one that rushed in and killed Rurik last time, and I would genuinely like to avoid repeating that particular experience. For reference, it has taken us 14 minutes, or taken me 14 minutes. You missed the first 6 or 7 of those to get to this point. Master of Whispers, please not be dying. Okay, good. Seems to be stabilized. The Rangers can do a huge amount of DPS very quickly. There's a PvP build called R-Spike at one point in time that was immensely popular, that had to do with Rangers just dropping a ton of damage all at once. So what you'll have noticed is that there's now not a gigantic group of enemies rushing in and killing the prince. So we were able to avoid certain tragedy by attending to that. He says we push on to Rin. Whether or not this group of enemies will be a problem remains to be seen, but I'd rather do it with the prince at my side where he can be healed than have him standing off in some idiot field. He says, bring the mages, their homecoming is overdue. But yeah, I don't want Prince Rurik in some idiot field where he's getting swarmed by enemies and getting killed. So he is going to apparently try to kill these Charstalker. I'm going to drop empathy on that guy so he can get on to the business of killing himself. But I want to make sure that we are with Prince Rurik so that we can keep him not dead. As you might notice, that seems to be in a very important state to keep the prince in, because he's a load-bearing NPC. They're shooting at the ground because they're aiming at dudes that are below themselves, which is just something that happens. But yeah, so R-Spike was a very popular build. But yeah, so I'm not sure about the case of Flare. I'm not sure if it should be a better skill. I'm not sure if it should have better DPS. I kind of feel like... So here's one of the big critiques that I have of the game, which is that I don't agree with the way that they've handled energy. There's arguments in multiple directions with this. So it's going to be a bit of a lengthy discussion, but one of the things that you see with energy costs is that they come in a couple of varieties, so like 5, 10. Then there's stuff that's like no energy, like this doesn't cost any energy, right? It costs adrenaline instead. There are skills that just don't... Signets, basically. So like you'll see here, this doesn't cost any energy whatsoever, nor adrenaline. So there's just different skills, but energy costs come in 1 for a nominal cost. So you'll see that, for example, on Blood is Power has a 1 energy cost. It's nominal. It has a big health sacrifice. 0, of course, but 0, 1, 5, 10, 15, and 25. Energy costs are always one of these values. And I don't know why. There are some arguments for it. There's a cutscene here, so I'm not going to talk.
Prince Rurik, what are you doing out here? Open this door. You will let us through. But sir, the king swore death if the door was opened.
And I swear death if you don't stand aside this instant.
Yes, my prince.
I defend Ascalon against another Char invasion. And my father trifles with doors.
You'll speak to the king, won't you? You'll tell him I had no choice.
By Balthazar's beard, Rin burns. I told the king the Char would not be held for long. We must get to Hornhill. Only Stormcaller can save the city now.
Okay, to resume as I was saying, Hornhill is kind of up off that way, I think. But yeah, so as I was saying, the fundamental problem that I have with that, and I don't know exactly why they do it. Here's the argument. Here's the argument for strictly regimented energy costs like that. It is less complicated. It is less complicated if you can just be like, these are 5 energy skills, 10 energy skills, 15 energy skills, 25 energy skills. These are free. These are effectively free. Like, 1 energy is so close to 0 energy that it might as well not cost any energy. It's very, very nominal. So that makes it very easy to process. Prince Rurik is absolutely running off on his own, by the way, and trying to get himself killed. So hopefully we can keep him from doing that. Just Shield of Absorption the Prince, would you? Just make sure he doesn't die. So on the one hand, I think that there's a lot of logic involved in having them have very segmented costs, in that by doing so, ooh, a butterfly sword, you enable the player to not have to remember specific energy costs of all of the different skills in the game. Okay, that's reasonable. On the other hand, it means that they have given up a ton of fine-tuning and a ton of granularity that they could otherwise enjoy, that otherwise enable them to be able to balance skills more readily. There are a bunch of skills in the game that are set at energy costs that are too high, but the next energy tier down of where they actually cost skills is way too low. A really good example of this, actually, is Shield of Deflection, which is a monk skill. Monk Elite skill under Protection Prayers right here. This right here is not worth 10 energy. This effect is just straight up not worth that much. On the other hand, it is way too cheap at 5. The effect is stronger than 5 energy. Because it's super strong defense. The recharge is a little long on it, but, you know, you can deal with that. Here we have an elemental boss called Crush Kill, which is interesting. But we have to make sure we're staying up on Prince Rurik, because he is running off on his own trying to get himself killed. So, anyway, I really wish it was about 7 energy. About 7 energy is the right cost, maybe 8, but about 7 feels right for that skill for me. And there's a bunch of skills in the game that are like this, where they don't... And I don't know why they skipped over 20 entirely, by the way. There are no 20 energy cost skills in the game. There is potentially some argument for data management, but I think that there's a lot of ways that you could get around that. And it certainly doesn't seem like it would be that necessary. You can fit a ton of energy ranges in a byte, so you'd literally have to be using less than a byte for the number of energy ranges there are, and it doesn't make any sense. Cutscene.
Praise be to Duena if this works.
This does nerf all of the char for some reason. So I can't think of any really good arguments for why they have so tightly regulated. One day the city of Rin may fall, but it is not this day, probably, sort of thing. I missed some of his dialogue because it doesn't show up in the thing for some reason. He says, but not today. So it doesn't do rain effects like this very often. It'd be kind of cool if it did do it more often than it does. But anyway. Please make sure Prince Rurik does not die. Please make sure Master of Whispers doesn't die either. They have a lot lower health. I don't know if they have less damage, though. I'm just going to pump that guy full of burning. We have to clear a bunch of groups, and Prince Rurik, he said, I'll suffer 1,000 deaths before I see these beasts defile the Jewel of Ascalon. So he just keeps running around, trying to aggro as many enemies as he can. This is another spot where Prince Rurik's. I shall cut your throat and take your head as a trophy, vermin, he says to that Char. You can see they're going down very quickly. Again. Ooh, I like that skin. That's just how this mission works. The enemies have way less health. Once he blows Stormcaller. If he doesn't blow Stormcaller, then they don't get this massive health debuff. But yeah, so I fundamentally disagree with having such highly regimented energy costs. I think that it really damages the ability to balance the game. Because there are just straight up some effects that cost more than 5 energy and less than 10, or between 10 and 15, or between 15 and 25. And I really, really wish they had done that. I'm going to throw this on now. Good. That landed on the prince, I guess. I guess that's good. It's not going to be too hard to clear out the rest of this. What are you doing, Prince Rurik? You must not waste time. The lives of my countrymen are at stake. I think he just repeated himself. You notice Bonfaz Burnt Fur is over there. That's kind of the guy that we've been wanting to stop, as it were. So, you know, we can go get him. He's just an elementalist. He's level 27 in hard mode, which is impressive. But he also has the health debuff, so he'll go down very quickly. And there we go. Let me fix that. This is a really important cutscene, by the way, for the plot, so go ahead and pay attention to it. A lot of fiery dragon swords here. They're kind of randomly assigned on some NPCs, so...
Trumpets. The king must be near. The fall of Rin will have darkened his heart.
Rin is the new capital. You heard about Dreskir, and it fell because it's north of the wall when the Char first attacked, and then Rin became the second one.
Adelbern!
Rise, my son. You have done well. The discovery of Stormcaller is surely a sign of victory.
It is a powerful weapon, but I fear not powerful enough. The Char have amassed an army of many thousands.
You overestimate these beasts, Rurik. Do not be afraid.
I am not afraid, Father. I have seen them in battle. Rin has been destroyed. It would be wise to escape while we can. We should make for Kryta and rebuild our strength, not wait here for death.
I will never allow Ascalons to live in the shadow of the Krytans. It is Rin that will be rebuilt. And you will learn your place.
You have grown proud, Adelbern of Ascalon. Proud and foolish.
You would dare call your king a fool? I will hear no more. I banish you from Ascalon. You are no longer my prince, and you are no longer my son.
People of Rin, your king will lead you to death. If you wish to see better days, if you wish to live, then leave the beasts behind and follow me over the Shiver Peaks. We make for Kryta and a new life, free of the Char.
And here we see the fundamental conflict and divide between King Adelbern and Prince Rurik. There's a couple of things that are important to keep in mind, narratively speaking. One is that King Adelbern was alive and heavily fighting the conflict. Here we're in Yaxben, by the way, which is part of the caravanning over the Shiver Peaks. We go with Prince Rurik in the story and do not stay with the king. But what we see is Prince Rurik was not alive or is not participating particularly in the old guild wars, where Adelbern was. To Adelbern, Kryta is an enemy, right? The three human nations of Or, Kryta, and Ascalon were at conflict during the guild wars, and that colors Adelbern's view of Kryta. He does not see them as potential allies, he sees them only as enemies. And that's old conflicts that are still affecting things here now. And he also sees Ascalon as the land. He sees this area, this burnt-out husk, and calls this Ascalon. And that's the name of the place. But to him, this is Ascalon. Rurik sees the people as Ascalon, and this is the fundamental conflict between them. The land or the people, which is the nation. And Rurik says it is the people, and he would rather save the people, take them caravanning through the Shiver Peaks, through Yaxben, down through some stuff here that we'll see, to get to Lion's Arch, and to get, where was it? Right up here to the Ascalonian settlement. This was Rurik's doing. And King Adelbern, on the other hand, says, no, we must defend these lands. And that's what leads to his mad smashing of Magdir that we see affecting things in Guild Wars 2. So anyway, I think that's a very fundamentally interesting contrast, and you can see a lot of the good in Prince Rurik. Unfortunately, as we saw at the end of the last episode, you can see the mechanical bad of him, and that mechanical bad flavored his character for players, and unfortunately greatly damaged their view of him. Anyway, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for us here today. So thank you for joining me, and until next time, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.